Alright, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA regular season video. In this video, we're going to talk about the proposed changes to the NBA draft lottery, NBA draft picks and the protections, and somewhat the draft itself. If you like what I have to say, like the video. If you have your own opinions, comment it down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. So, this video was supposed to be about the NBA coming back from All-Star break and all that stuff, and the games weren't too crazy. Um, Cade Cunningham dropped like 40 on the Knicks. We could talk about that, but Cade has been on a mission this season, and the Knicks still looking kind of bad. So I figured I'd talk about something different. I'd talk about something that came out last night or last afternoon, last evening, however you want to phrase it, from ESPN's Shams Charania. He reported that Commissioner Adam Silver informed the league's 30 general managers on Thursday that the NBA plans to make an anti-tanking rule change for next season. So not this season, next season, 2027. Yeah, 2027. And rule change for next season, ESPN sources told ESPN stakeholders have intensified dialogue about combating tanking, and then we got a synopsis of some of the changes that could happen. Not all of these are going to happen, obviously. Probably maybe just like one or two of them are going to happen to combat tanking. I do have a whole video talking about the sort of tanking situation and like I hate to use the word like what's the word I used before, the ethics behind tanking, um, what the Jazz are doing, the what are the other teams? The Jazz and the Wizards primarily. Um, but let's read this, and then I want to give my thoughts on each of these suggestions or these ideas that are being floated around in the boardrooms and on like Zoom calls and stuff like that for the NBA. This is from ESPN's Shams Charania as well. Multiple sources with knowledge on Thursday's GM meeting, as well as the late January competition committee meeting, told ESPN the following concepts have been discussed to curb tanking, in no particular order. Um, the first option to combat tanking is first round picks can be protected only top 4 or top 14. So that puts a cap on the protections of a pick. GMs can't stipulate, oh, we want a top 2 protection, we want a top 3 protection. It's just going to be what the NBA says it is. Either it's top 4, it's top 14, and either you're trading this pick and you're giving up the potential for, if it falls out of the top 4, you're losing it to the other team, or if it falls out of the top 14, you're losing it. So high risk, high reward, I guess. Yeah, high risk, high reward. The other one, lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date. This one, I don't want to say confused me, but by freezing it, you mean you obviously have the draft lottery, so you know where, or I should say, you have the odds, and then you have the lottery. So at the trade deadline, if you're bad, that's where it is. That's where you stand. Um, I I I can't, I don't. Oh, I don't understand. I don't. Well, let me come back to that. I want to read all these first, and then we'll come back to it. That one sort of throws me through a loop for a loop. Um, Number three, the third option, no longer allowing a team to pick top 4 in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. So after you bad for 2 seasons, that third season you have to be good. Or you can't, you can be bad, but you're not going to get a reward for it. You just have to be good. Um, the next one, teams can't pick top in the top 4 the year after making the conference finals. I like this one too. Um, that would have effectively not let the Hawks get um Zachary Risache. I think yeah, that would sort of curb that. Even though Zachary Risache isn't anything spectacular, if it was another prospect, maybe the Hawks would have been in a little bit better situation right now. But that would have curbed that. They wouldn't have gotten the number 1 pick. Um, Next one, the lottery odds. allocated based on a 2-year record. This is what happens in the WNBA. So if you have one really bad year and one really good year, it averages out. Or if you have two really bad years, it's sort of the number probably would go up a little bit depending on the win loss ratio of that. The one after that one, lottery extended to include all play-in teams. So that one I don't like because that just makes that makes like I um, I don't know about that because like play-in team. Well, here we can pull it up right now. Um, Teams that are in the play-in right now, if we just look at it as of today, this would include in both the East and Western Conference, the Orlando Magic, the Miami Heat, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Charlotte Hornets. Do they need a hypothetical like a top five pick? I mean, maybe Miami does. Maybe Atlanta. No, Orlando doesn't need one. Charlotte doesn't need one. I mean, realistically, I mean, would they like one? Sure. Do they need one? No. And for the West, I mean, that means Phoenix, Golden State, Clippers, Blazers. Phoenix, Golden State, and LA might be the only ones that need it. So if you include all those teams with the bad teams in each conference, that opens it up to being one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine teams in each conference. It's a lot of teams, man. I don't know if I like that one. Um, and the last one, flatten lottery odds for all lottery teams. So basically makes it so everybody has the same odds. Sort of not what it used to be, but a a major correction to what it used to be previous to what it is now. Um, Getting into the ones I like, I do like um, freezing it at the trade deadline or a later date. Freezing it at a later date. I do like no longer allowing teams to pick top four in consecutive years and or after consecutive bottom three finishes. That's a good one. And I do like number four, which is let's see, one, two, three, four. Teams can't pick top four the year after making the conference finals. I think that one I think that one's gonna be included no matter what main solution we get. Because now that I'm thinking about it, right? That would have that would have negated the Cooper Flag thing. That would have negated the Cooper Flag. Um, I want to say the odds for the Mavericks to get that pick were very low to begin with, but they wouldn't have picked in the top four. It just would have been impossible. Huh. I just thought about that. Wow. Okay. Um, Getting back to the one that not want to say confused me, but intrigued me the most is freezing the lottery odds at the trade deadline or a later date. So you would have an incentive. There would be if I'm reading into this correctly, teams could be bad up until the trade deadline, and then whatever many games are left in the season, they're just gonna turn it around, or they're just gonna continue to be bad, or they're good. Teams are good purposely gonna try to be bad the first half of the season so they can have a high value asset to trade, or have a high value asset to trade, or be able to keep that pick, and the odds aren't going to shift, so they can sort of course correct at the trade deadline, and maybe they know the odds of what they know the odds. They know they're going to be in this portion of the lottery. The top three teams have a 14% chance of getting the number one pick. So if you're the worst of the worst, you have that percentage, and you can build a team around possibly maybe getting a top three pick, and you can say, hey, maybe we make this move because we know the pick is frozen at these odds. It's going to be top three. We're cool. We can actually make some aggressive moves, which would work, but like maybe I don't think a lot of people would see it like that. I don't think a lot of GMs would see it like that. They might just say, hey, we'll just continue to be bad and whatever. And maybe it would incentivize teams to take on bad money too. You know, take on some bad money, maybe get like a veteran in the locker room, sort of thing, and then gone at the end of the season. they're off the books, they're off the payroll, and you know the pick is going to be what it is. So the latter half of the season, you don't have to be bad necessarily. You can be at least a little more competitive. I could also see it that way, and I I like that. I like that a lot. I would need to see more clarity on that, but overall, I like that. And then three being no longer allowing teams to pick top three in consecutive years. I think this is a no brainer. I think once you get like if you get three top three picks, right? Like in consecutive years. So let's see, this year, next year, and the year after that, right? And you're still bad, you should not be able to get another one. There is something wrong with your organization. There is something wrong with the coach. You need to make some internal changes before you get another pick. I think that's smart. Also, and for four, um, which one would this be? First round picks can be protected only in the top four or top 14. I think that one's just a stipulation. I think you can negotiate that if you're trying to change the rule. Maybe like top five, it can only be top five protected or top maybe even top three protect only top three. That would shake things up. And top like 10 protected. I don't know. But yeah, there was something else I wanted to pull up um in regards to this news yesterday. Yes, here we go. So there was a this is a post from NBA Central, actually, um, taking taking the idea if there was absolutely no draft lottery and it was just the worst teams getting one, two, three, the top three picks, um, and the results are wild. Um, Cooper Flag with the Utah Jazz, which, in all fairness, is where I thought he was going to go when the draft lottery happened. As you can see, like middle right of your screen, that's the I believe at the time the assistant GM, um, with the number one pick card right there with the vice commissioner right there, and then number two would have been Dylan Harper in Charlotte, which okay, uh, I mean we would know of more what he is, hypothetically speaking, and then VJ Edgecombe would have gone to the Wizards, which I don't mind. I mean, they got a lot of guards over there, but I wouldn't have mind. That would have been interesting. Um, and then you got some, you got some other ones. You got some other ones that people have commented down below where Victor Wembanyama would have been a Piston in that year's draft, and then the year previous to that, Cade Cunningham would have been a Rocket, which would have been crazy. And then the year before that, when Anthony Edwards would have been a uh, Golden State Warrior, which has been beat to death at this point. And it makes me very sad because as somebody who wants Steph Curry to do well, if he had Anthony Edwards on his team right now, that would have been spectacular. Um, Overall, I gave my thoughts in my tanking video when I talked about. I think it was last week, but like I I I don't think tanking is innately bad. I think the best kind of tanking is the tanking that keeps your fans wanting more and seeing the progression of these other players on your team. What the Indiana Pacers are doing right now, where they are pretty bad. They're stinky. They stink, right? But hey, they go out there, once or twice a month, and they beat a really good team. They beat the Knicks earlier this month, and the Knicks probably shouldn't have lost that game, but they did. Um, it's being strangely competitive when you're trying to be bad, and I think something also that I might have touched on in that video, but I'll touch on here is that the the coach plays a big part in a team in the willingness to tank. If you look at the Indiana Pacers, they have a longtime head coach. I mean, like a he's a veteran head coach, not long time in Indiana, but he's been around basketball for a long time. And Rick Carlisle, if you asked him to tank, he'd be like, hell no, hell no. We're gonna at least go out there and win a couple games. We're gonna prepare the same way we did last year, and we might not have the same talent but we can go out there and play hard and be competitive, and that results in some players finding different roles and finding out that they can actually be really good in these different scenarios. And it does open up the door to players that you realize, hey, we don't really need. We're gonna get a top pick. Let's get rid of this guy. And that was at the trade deadline. They got rid of Benedict Mathurin. The Pacers did. They're like, hey, we're gonna get somebody else in the building, so we don't need you. Thank you for your service. We'll send you off somewhere nice, sunny Los Angeles, and we'll call it a day. Um, I think that plays a big role in a lot of this, of the tanking. Is it has to be a GM, coach, whatever else front office personnel is in those decisions, to decide to tank, to decide to be bad. You look at a guy in Utah with Will Hardy, who's a very young coach, who's a very talented coach, but is a very young coach, and he really doesn't have a lot of pull. If the people upstairs tell him, hey, we got to be bad, we got to tank, we got to make up, not make up, but like supposedly make up fake injuries for these guys, we'll do it just so we can be bad, you know. But in that process, they're not winning games, but they're letting guys be really good, and they're letting guys find their role. Isaiah Collier, for example, Ace Bailey, for example. It does pay off in a weird way, but the overall tanking of just being bad, like what the Wizards is doing, is kind of like disgusting. Um, and that's a nice way to put it. It's sort of shady, and like I don't like that because you're sitting Anthony Davis, who's injury prone, but he probably should be playing because he is probably healthy. You're sitting Trae Young, who should probably be healthy, who is probably healthy, but is just like doesn't want to re-injure himself playing on a bad team, which I also understand. But hey, this is what you signed up for. This is what you get paid multi-million dollars for. If you're on a bad team, you're on a bad team. You know, you can't just play when you know the team's going to be good. You have to play when the team's bad because that's what I want to say. That's what builds character. That sounds like such a pull yourself up by the bootstraps sort of thing to say, but you got to be there at the lows. You got to be at the highs, lows and the highs. That's how players used to do it. I mean, and as much stuff that Kevin Durant gets now, when he was in Oklahoma and then as he left, he was there when the team was bad, and then he was there when the team was good. And Russ was there when Katie had the Jones fracture in his foot, and then they were good again, and then they were bad, and it was a roller coaster. But that's what happens. That's the nature of basketball, and I think we've lost some of that in this era of like analytics, and in this era of everything is based on a percentage of like we have this percentage to get this pick, we have this percentage of the cap space left, we have this percentage of you shoot this you shoot this much percentage from the 3 point line. This is the most efficient shot. I think it's all lost in the numbers, and that's what I'm realizing as I'm out here speaking it into this microphone, is that we're just losing it in the numbers when you should just build a team. And sometimes you get the fifth pick, sometimes you get the first pick, sometimes you get the 13th pick. Hey, that 13th pick might be better than that first pick. You look at a player like Devin Booker, who was not a top pick, who was a basic unknown, outside of people that didn't watch Kentucky games, and he became the Suns franchise leading scorer. You just don't know anymore, and there are some nuanced things that I won't get into. Um, when drafting, you have to be a good talent evaluator, but to just outright tank is sort of icky. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to give a follow up to that tanking video, my first one, and yeah, and this Sham stuff, this Adam Silver telling the GMs, hey, we're gonna change this. um, Sort of came out of nowhere, so it was sort of fitting. But yeah, that's it. That's the video. You guys will. I've said it a million times, but I promise this time, we'll get back to your regularly scheduled content. Talk about NBA games and stuff. March Madness is around the corner, so we'll talk about that stuff as well when we get there. Doing some draft stuff as well, so you guys will get a mixed bag of videos next week and the week after that, and then we'll see what happens. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.